Assalamu alaikum, everyone. We are back with a brand new episode of Modesty Table. You might notice something a little different. We've decided to go headset and mic. So I've had a lot of jokes about this. So we'll discuss that a little later. But a big, massive welcome to today's show. We have just had actually this week International Women's Day. So I'm so excited to introduce to you our very special guest, who is one of those amazing women who we have to celebrate, right? So I'm going to introduce you to Khadijah Safari. A big assalamu alaikum to you. How are you doing?
Walaikum salam rahmatullahi barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, I'm good. I'm definitely overwhelmed right now, but all in a really kind of positive, exciting way. So yeah, lots of
Gosh,
things happening, aren't there? So yeah, I'm sure everybody's feeling kind of a bit similar to that at the moment. How's it going for you?
absolutely. I mean, it's like what lockdown, right? I think early on when all of this started, everybody thought, right, this is just a time to rest, relax, and unwind. But I think everybody who is doing work out there just thought, actually, let's get creative, let's get more powerful, let's go, do things, and that's where we're at right now. But um,
Exactly that. I think either, some people really needed that break, and some people definitely, there's a lot of negatives that have happened as well, but some people have just needed that time out mentally to just have some time with themselves. And then some people have just been like, right, opportunity, what can we do? Let's go. So yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Guys, so again, what we're doing with Modesty Table here is it's like a weekly webinar interviewing, amazing women from across the world. And, we hope to get very casual with our talk, very honest, very open, and inshallah, hoping you have enjoyed the episode so far. But let's hear a little bit more about our very special guest. I know Khadijah for a while now. She's based in the UK. She is within the field that I have such a big respect for right now, Hijabi women within sports, and in particular, a very, very important, part of sports. So I'm gonna hand it over to you, Khadijah. You tell us a little bit about yourself.
I don't know, let me just take it back for a second as to kind of how I entered it, maybe.
Yeah, sure.
Because back in 2009 I chose to become Muslim, alhamdulillah. And I was already into sports. I was already into Muay Thai and kickboxing, and sport in general is quite a male dominated industry. But sport for Muslim women, like, male dominated isn't even the word. It was something that just I didn't really see it 11 years ago. And I went on a mission to go and find a women's only gym to train in martial arts in London, and couldn't find anything. And so I was like, well, it's not other people's responsibility to do that for us. If I want a women's only gym, I'm going to have to open one. So I opened the UK's first women's only martial arts club in the UK. And
Wow.
what a journey it's been since then, because I wouldn't even say I underestimated. I think I did it for personal reasons at the time. It was never like, oh, there's a niche in the market, we need to do this. It was more, no, I want a place to train. There isn't one, so I'm going to open one. Never did I realize the journey and the learning curve it would be for me to understand the need for this, and not just the need for it, the deep I don't know, wounds almost that are within people with their perception of sport in general, especially within the Muslim community. So yeah, it's been 11 years of learning, really, and an absolutely beautiful journey, because I've managed to just learn from so many other women about their own journeys and their own struggles and their own barriers, and find ways to try and have a change in perception and a movement in understanding the real, not only the benefits of sport, but Islamically, not only is it permissible, like, it's recommended, and to kind of try and break down those cultural barriers and misconceptions that do exist. So yeah, it's really been a journey for me.
I mean, it's amazing, and we're looking forward to delving into this a little bit more, because I have to admit, My own fitness journey, probably you were one of the early role models that I looked up to. I came across your profile once, a couple of years back, and I just thought, wow, like those flying kicks that you're doing and the self-defense moves that you were doing. And I just thought it was amazing. And myself, I think kickboxing has always interested me, and any sort of it's an empowering sport, isn't it? It's giving you confidence. It's building up your fitness levels, your stamina, and all of these things. And what really spoke to me is the fact that you were a hijabi as well. So that for me was amazing. Tell me a little bit more about that. As a Muslim woman, you know what it's like in the sports industry, but as a hijab wearing Muslim woman, how did that affect your journey?
Yeah, do you know what? It's really interesting because I was very naive, ignorant maybe to the barriers that were there for Muslim women because I wasn't Muslim, so I never saw any reason why women wouldn't be participating in sport. I knew there were less of them, but I never realized and understood the barriers. And I really, I came to Islam completely fresh-minded and just learning about the actual religion. I was never introduced to any culture, and I was very quick. The second I learned something that someone was doing culturally that wasn't Islamic, I was like, hang on, why are you doing that? That's not actually anything to do with the religion. So I came in very fresh-minded to it and very ignorant to knowing the reasons why a lot of Muslim women weren't participating in sport. And I didn't see why me wearing hijab would make any difference to that. To me, it was completely normal until I started to get media attention. And I started to get all these interviews. And I was like, hang on a minute, like, I'm not a world champion. I'm not someone that's got loads of medals or anything like that. The only reason I was getting the attention was because there was a hijab on my head. So I was like, they're interested in the fact that a Muslim woman is participating in sport. And I couldn't understand at the time why that was a big deal. Like, there was no difference. But it's only been during this kind of, 10-year, 11-year period that I've really, as I said, come to understand the depths of why Muslim women don't participate in sport. And it's not just, and this is what I'm working on at the moment and have been working on over the past few years, it's not just about reaching out to Muslim women and saying, no, you can participate in sport, go ahead and do it. It's actually a much bigger job than that. It's actually changing the mentality of whole families. Okay, because it's all well and good one person in the family thinking, I want to be a kickboxer, or whatever it is they want to do, whatever it is they want to do, but the family not supporting them. If they don't have that support, then there's you're actually creating a really negative environment. So I'm trying to convince a Muslim woman, you've got hijab, it doesn't matter, go and do sport, but she's got a whole family or a bubble or whatever it is around her that doesn't actually see that being acceptable or permissible. The job is much deeper. It's actually working on the mentalities of the families, which is why we started working on the self-defense videos during lockdown, was to kind of show, look, I'm the one knocking my husband down. Like, it's this man and woman power thing. We both have our own responsibilities and our own roles. I by no means ever say I am the same as a man, because I'm not. I'm a woman, and alhamdulillah, I'm so blessed that I am a woman, right? I would not ever want to be like, I see my sons and my husband, I'm like, oh, these poor boys, like. But it's about learning your role, but learning what you are still capable of doing, and where the restrictions aren't as black and white as people see them. And the reason they I think that I've learned, the really reason they have them is just through what their parents did and what their parents did and what their parents thought and so on. And it just kind of goes through generations. And so I've kind of, as I said, I've come in fresh-minded, stripped that down to, well, what does the religion actually say about it, and taken it kind of from that angle. So, I mean, you tell me, like, how long have you worn hijab for? Like, how has your journey with sport, has it always been just, I don't know, has it always been normal? Has it always been something you would always be like partaking?
I mean, it's interesting that you ask me that, because I wore it through secondary school for a while, and it did have an effect. I went to a predominantly white school. It was a grammar school here in Birmingham, and you know, that change that was always there, you know, almost that, oh, is hijab suitable for sports? Is it safe? It's a health and safety concern. You know, the religious and sort of spiritual aspect of it didn't really come into play. They were thinking practically. But you know, I was probably one of the only ones playing hockey, doing netball with a hijab on at the time. You know, in our school anyway, and it helped sort of lead the way. And that's when I realized how important it is to have, you know, representation, or have somebody sort of doing that so that other girls can follow. And I think it's great that you've touched on that, you know, that cultural aspect of, you know, the pressures and they're not religious norms at all. It's not part of the religion. In fact, like you said, it's recommended, but it comes under self-love, self-care, you know, looking after your body, being healthy, being fit. So I think what you're doing is wonderful, and we need to take that narrative back. That actually, it's not, you know, it's not just an extracurricular. It's a way of enriching us. And I think we've touched on this before in a previous interview about Islamophobia, about hijabophobia, even not just within sports. We tend to, as women who choose to wear hijab, face discrimination in a lot of aspects of our lives. And it's just a shame, that, you know, that there is a lot of work to do. But, you know, when I see people like yourself breaking down those barriers, speaking out, against, this type of stuff, and changing that actually, you know, imagine if we go back to Islam, the historical Islam, when we had, some amazing women who used to be in battle, who used to, you know, they've protected the Prophet, peace be upon him, you know, and horse riding, swimming, archery, these type of things were encouraged, you know, even for women. So, and we've all watched Ertugrul, right? Have you caught that yet? You're too
No,
busy, I
so
bet.
I don't actually. I try and avoid series of anything because I feel like it would
It's
just.
addictive.
So no, I haven't.
Yeah, so I mean, it's again, it depicts women being very, very, you know, self-sufficient, very independent, very, you know, the self-defense thing. They used to, you know, protect the village themselves as well. So I think it's not even that, you know, it's almost, dare I say, we've almost regressed when it comes to roles of women. You know, sort of that narrative that actually, you know, you belong in the kitchen. And it's interesting that we've just had International Women's Day. Of course, this isn't just a Muslim woman thing. There are general, you know, things around roles of women where it's very gender specific, kitchen, nurturing, mummies stay at home, look after kids, etc., etc. So there's a lot that we have to work through, right? And I think you've definitely experienced the sort of, the cultural aspects that we have to deal with as well. So, more power to you, and more power to everybody who's tuned in, because it's a very important, thing. And, Khadijah here is here to tell you how important, you know, it is, to be part of sports and even self-defense. So I'm going to hand it back to you. Actually, let
You
us
know, I
know
don't
how.
say about God, about the importance of it is something, and that's where we're coming with the education side of it. Is quite often one of the things that I've learned in the Muslim communities, especially for teenagers or even younger, like kind of when they're going through that gap of about to go into secondary school, or even not so much with the home educators, but more the ones that actually have their children in schools, of saying, oh, well, they've got exams coming up, so I'm going to pull them out of sport now for the year until they've got their GCSEs done or whatever. But the benefit of sport and actual academic learning, you know, those endorphins that you're releasing in the brain, that focus, that quick thinking, strategy, reflex, like all of those things which you gain from actually working out will actually allow you to focus and study even better.
For
So
sure.
for me, yeah, when I was at university, you know, I would only ever allow myself to study for 3 hours at a time when it came to exams. Anything past that, I felt like I wasn't absorbing the information. I'd go off, whether it's a workout or a walk or whatever it was I'd do, I'd take a proper hour out, come back to it refreshed. So, you know, having that balance, we're able to work with parents as well, with children. They'll say, you know, my child's not focusing at school, they're not concentrating. one of the beauties of sport is self-discipline. And I'm not just talking about children. I mean, this is for women, this is for adults, this is for
For sure.
anyone. But to actually turn up to a class in the first place, usually the hardest part is saying, no, I'm going to get changed and I'm going to go. Right.
That
And
first step.
that's it. Once you can get into the habit of becoming self-disciplined about that and making it a regular part of your life, that won't just benefit you with your physical health and fitness level, that will benefit you in all decisions that you make in life. Because if I can commit to going to a class, if I set myself a project or a learning task or whatever it is I want to do, I can implement that same skill that I've learned through sport into my academic learning or my Islamic knowledge or whatever it is you want to do. So the skills that you're getting from sport are life skills. And there's even decision making that comes in sport. Is that too much of a risk? Should I try it? Should I try it again? Am I going to get injured? All of those things, all of those decision making processes that you have in sports are life skills. Should you take that risk? Is it too much of a risk? Is there more benefit coming from it than bad? Like, is it going to leave you injured? And I don't just mean with a physical injury. Like, risk taking in life is something we have to deal with on a daily basis. And once you develop a fear of that, you start to lead into anxieties and lots of other things. So, the benefits that come from that help with the mind, and whether that's with mental health or just general life choices, like the benefits are countless, and they literally sit side by side. And I don't know, you tell me, like, it's always difficult, isn't it, to say, oh, do you know what, I actually want to go for a walk and make that effort to break up my day, or I want to go and do a class, especially with lockdown. I'm a complete introvert. I absolutely love being by myself. So I have to make even more of an effort to actually say, no, I'm actually going to go out and do something. But how do you feel afterwards? You never come back thinking, oh, I really regret doing that. You always, well, personally, come back feeling refreshed and ready to kind of refocus again. I don't know. How do you find it?
I mean, you know what's crazy? It's exactly that. You go out and, for example, walks are great. You don't come back physically battered from a walk, generally speaking. But when I've climbed a mountain for charity, for example, I've done Ben Nevis, I've done Snowdon several times as well, and I think you almost think, nah, I couldn't do that. You get lazy and you think, oh no, I don't think I could climb a mountain. I don't think I could do that. That's too physically draining. I'm going to be shattered. It's going to hurt. It's going to, all of those things that come into your head. But once you've done it, yes, even, in that, what is it? Maybe hormone release or whatever it is. It does make you feel good, even if there is, physical pain afterwards. I remember we used to do intense kickboxing sessions, and the guy had us, the instructor had us doing mountain climbs, burpees, planks, wall squats, and all sorts. And you could never get me out to even go for a walk unless there was a reason behind it, right? And I think all of that experience has made me a little bit more, reframe my mentality. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about, isn't it? It's reframing that mentality that actually we have a body, it's an amana, we have to look after it, we should be fit and healthy. Long term, if you think about it, I love the concept of self-preservation. If we're looking after ourselves, we've got more energy and time and health to give more to our families, to the community, etc., etc. So for me, I think it's always been about that. But I mean, what's been your favorite thing about being in this sort of health and fitness industry? What's your favorite thing? How's the response been back from the females?
Yeah, well, I mean, the response is phenomenal. Like, as I said, I didn't realize how much it was needed. And I think there's a few favorite things I've got. One is the fact that I've actually been able to give the opportunity for women from all different cultures and backgrounds to come into a place where they're equal and they're united and they work together as a team where there's no differences. And it's been learning about equity for me has been something that's been really special, because I always thought that equity was something linked to money. I only ever hear equality, I understood, but equity, I was like, no, like I read it in a sporting document. I was like, that's not the right place. I went off to research it. And I realized that you can give equal opportunities for women to participate in sport, but you will only get the ones who are confident enough to actually step into a class for the first time who will turn up. Therefore, it's not equal because you haven't put the kind of blocks in place to help those ones climb up that need the help to take that first step in the first place. And that's what the equity is putting into place the opportunities to make that first step equal. And then once they're in that class, to make them all feel and be equal. So that's been one of the really beautiful things, because even for me, when I was at university, when I was 19, I wasn't Muslim. And there was a really lovely girl in my class there was one hijabi in the class. And, you know, she was really nice and I always spoke to her, but I never, ever thought about exchanging numbers or meeting up or doing something together, because I thought her world was completely different to my world and that we'd have nothing in common, right? Obviously, I knew nothing because I was ignorant and I didn't have enough knowledge. But what these classes do, you walk into that class, hijabs come off, there is absolutely nothing to change the identity of whether it's someone's social status, what job they have, where they're from, what their belief is. None of that stuff matters. Everyone's got their own goal and everyone's there to support one another. So that's definitely been one of my favorite things, is being able to provide that platform. And it just so happens that martial arts has been the platform to do it. And I think the other favorite thing is really understanding what women get out of training. I know I'm talking a lot about women. We do train children, youth and men as well, but women is the area which, you know, my focus is on. And to understand those challenges and to be able to see a change happening. If you look in the past 5 years, lots more people have been coming into the industry. If you look in the past 12 months, it's, you know, they're really going heavy on trying to engage BAME communities and diversity. And yes, you know what, they might be trying to tick boxes, but I don't care, because if they're trying to tick boxes, it means something is going to happen, a movement will happen, and there will become more role models, and there will become more women that sat at home thinking, oh, actually, that she looks like me, she represents what I'm about. And we need that. And so I've been having, you know, I've had the opportunity to speak with some really big organizations, and I'm seeing change. The work that goes on, people just know I run the classes, but the work that goes on behind the scenes, all the meetings with like Sport England and places like that, to actually tell them, listen, to become diverse in what you're doing, you can't just have role models. You can't just have pictures in your ads of people from different minorities or ethnic minorities or groups or whatever. You can't do that. That's not enough. The depth of it is much deeper, and you need to be working on the change, the shift of mentalities within the communities before you can just kind of welcome them in. So yeah, definitely two of my favorite things is the fact that I've actually seen a change coming from, you know, over the past few years, and the fact that we can create a place where we can integrate women into society to become equal and learn about one another.
I mean, it's great. And imagine this is what goes on behind the scenes. And you're right, even I've seen a change. There's so many younger people. I mean, when you see a young girl wearing hijab, lifting, you know, these massive, I think I saw, is it deadlifts? Is it called deadlifts when it's 120 kg or something?
Honestly, I know nothing about weights at all, but yeah, go on.
I think it's something like that. And when I saw, and you know, with social media, I think almost thank the Lord for social media, because it's made the world almost a bit more of a smaller place, and you know, you can easily connect to people from all over the world. And I think it's been amazing to see young girls go into things like basketball. You know, we had a hijabi sister, Tuli, was it, you know, in the Forbes list. It's just great. It's wonderful. There is a lot of work to do, as you know, you've mentioned, but I think that there is hope, and that change that you've seen, and inshallah we'll all try our best to build on it. I think you know, sports has got to be one of my favorite things, and I'm grateful that I had the experience when I was in secondary school. So yes, I definitely had that pressure from family that actually it's exams time now. So you need to forget about trying to be county hockey or county this, or, you know, taking it seriously. You can do it at school, but don't try and do it seriously, and I think there's even, I wonder whether you've come across this, when Muslim girls hit puberty,
Yeah.
and if they're in a mixed school and it's going to be a mixed sport environment, this is when parents think, what, you don't need to do that, you might as well just stay at home, you don't need to do any sports. And I think, unfortunately, that's when the journey stops. Even though, of course, there's female only sports like netball, and I'm grateful that, even as I was older, I think I got so fed up at one point with my lack of health and unhealthiness, and fitness levels, that I searched for a netball league locally, and I joined them, and it was great. And I love what you've said about the connection, and you connect to people from all sorts of backgrounds, and on that court you guys are just it's got nothing to do with what job you do, or what flashy car you've got, what big house you've got, it's got how many kids you have, how many dogs you have. It's nothing to do with that. It's just pure utter fun, and it's just great. So I'm hoping everybody who's tuned in has been inspired a little bit to get involved in some sort of sports as well. If I ask you a question, actually, this is one of the questions I ask a lot of our guests, especially because of the general perception that a lot of people have within wider society, actually, about hijab. You know, are you oppressed? So this is a question that people have assumptions and perceptions about hijab. So here's the question for you, Khadijah: are you oppressed?
Definitely not. Definitely not. And yeah, good luck to anyone that tries to oppress me, because I'm up for
They need to check out your videos. They need to check out how you smack down, and so it's great. What do you feel about that question, though? Have you been asked that question before? And do you get a lot of people asking you, like, does someone force you to wear that? Was it your dad? Was it your husband? Are you forced to wear the hijab?
I've never had that particular question about being forced to wear it. I think I don't know. I feel like obviously there's a lot of presumptions. It was very common for me, especially when I was in London. I used to get taxis quite a lot. It was very common that the taxi driver would turn around and be like, "Oh, so what do you do?" They're trying to make polite conversation. I'll try and keep it. I'm on my way to teach. Where are you going? Or where do you teach? I teach kickboxing. They're like, you see, they're like double checking that rear view mirror just to see whether actually it's in my head or not. But at the end of the day, I also understand where those presumptions come from, because I was probably one of those people, right? Because the only I hadn't come into contact with any Muslims myself. Now, unless you have a reason to learn about a religion, you're not actually going to do it voluntarily, unless unless you've come into contact with someone, you're like, well, actually, let me look into that. But I didn't grow up with any Muslims around me at all. And it wasn't until I moved to London that I came into contact with Muslims. And so the only thing I knew was whatever I'd seen on the news. Because especially when I was younger, there was absolutely no way that there would be a Muslim in a film, a Muslim woman in a film or something like that, or a TV series. So I had no, unless there was a negative role coming in. And if there was, and then you'd kind of maybe, that's where you're learning your ideas from. So I understand why people come with that perception, because unless you actually spend time with a Muslim and get to know them, then you'll only know what you've been shown by other sources. And you've got to get to a point in your life where you acknowledge that you don't necessarily need to believe everything you see. And until you get to that point, you're not going to start looking into anything. I mean, the first time I went to a mosque was actually to teach self-defense class. I wasn't Muslim. But I wanted to get to know more about Muslim women. And so I went to this mosque, and I got lost. And anyway, the sister came out and she greeted me, and she was wearing a jilbab, black jilbab. And we went inside, and I was wearing a cap. I was like, oh, I'll wear a cap out of respect, cover my hair.
Oh.
And I went inside, and then she took off this jilbab, because it was only women. They locked the doors on. She was wearing the funkiest tracksuit I've ever seen. I was like, oh, wow. I was like, oh, amazing. That looks fantastic. Oh, hang on. And she was actually, I think she was half Italian, half Jamaican. And I was like,
Wow.
she's actually really cool. Like, we actually really got on. But because I'd never had that experience, the hijab does create a barrier in that first instant of getting to know someone and your perception of them. And so I do understand why people have the view that Muslim women may be oppressed, because unless they're friends with somebody that is Muslim, and even then, when you say somebody that's Muslim, you know, whether it's cultural or not, is going to put a whole nother view on it, isn't it? But unless you are surrounded by maybe a group of Muslim women to realize, actually, do you know what? We're all really similar. We've all got our own beliefs. You know, everyone's got their own belief, and it doesn't matter what it is. So no, I understand why people would think that Muslim women are oppressed. But whether I think, you know, in terms of the media, I think that's a whole different story. And so, yeah, until someone is at the point where they can say, do you know what, I'm not going to believe everything that's shown to me on TV, it will be then that they'll be able to start to open their eyes and learn. Which is, yeah, it's still fascinating to me that people find it fascinating that I do kickboxing in a hijab. But I now get it. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, media plays a big role in the negative sort of perception of Muslim women, I feel. And the more we come out of our shells, out of our communities and take up, you know, sort of public roles, this is another reason I think social media is great. A lot of the times we find that we're looking for role models, for example, or we're looking for people that look like us that we can relate to and, you know, sort of follow their inspirations and you know, following their footsteps almost. So I think it's super important that, you know, more Muslim women are actually out in public roles, because there's so much talent within the Muslim community that perhaps often it gets hidden, right? We've got doctors, lawyers, we've got kickboxing champions, we've got all sorts. There's you know, we are the same. Every one of us has something different to offer, and I think this is why I love, you know, World Hijab Day. Even World Hijab Day, it's been, it's enabled so many sisters, almost like creating a massive sisterhood of people, and we're able to now showcase this through Modesty Table, speaking to yourself, speaking to women who are doing amazing things in all sorts of fields. So you know, I think I'm going to do a quick appreciation for you as well for making time, because I know you're mad hectic, you know, with all sorts at the moment. But I think my next question would have to be, who do you sort of look up to? You know, what kind of role models, what keeps you going? Because it's not easy. You know, it's amazing to see you do so much, and you know, hats off to you and hijabs off to you and, you know, respect. But I think that the biggest thing we have to understand is nothing is easy. So what keeps you motivated?
Yeah, and it's a good question. People often ask me, like, who's my role model? I don't have an individual role model. There's no one that I'm like, oh, do you know what, I really wish I could be like them. I
Hmm.
tell you what keeps me going is my intentions. All right, is thinking about why I do what I'm doing. Like, at the end of the day, inshallah, Allah will accept the work that I have done to try and build a bigger platform, to try and engage more women to be able to participate in sport. And then if we talk about role models, there are so many different aspects of different people that inspire me to better myself. And I think it's really important that you keep a group of people around you who make you want to better yourself. And there's absolutely nothing selfish about saying, do you know what, I don't have a lot of time on my hands, so I'm going to make time for these people, but I'm also going to say no when I need to others, or even that group of people which you have kind of chosen to keep around you. But look at Khadijah, like Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his first wife was a businesswoman. You know, that to me is an inspiration. There's people that have nothing to do with Islam that inspire me in some way. Richard Branson's way of dealing with his staff, the things that he does for his staff, is something that I'm like, oh, that's actually a really good idea. As I said, I take little bits of little things, but there's no one person really that's alive now. Obviously, we have Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who we should all aspire to be like in our character and everything. But there's no one person here now that I like absolutely everything about, because everybody is going to have their own real positives, and everyone's going to have their things that they need to work on. So we all need to aspire to improve our weaknesses and keep working towards our strengths. And I think, as I said, what keeps me going is intention, is setting my intention for doing what I'm doing. And the second that intention becomes monetary or anything to do with financial gain, the second that happens, I feel like I just lose everything. And so on a daily basis, when I'm making a decision, and whether that is bringing in a new member of staff or opening a new location, I will pray istihara for it, make it easy if it's going to be good for me, and take it away from me if it will be bad for me. And that's the same thing that I ask for with money. Like, give me money only enough that's good for me and that I'm meant to have, and don't give me money that I shouldn't have. Because if you can keep your intentions really pure in what you're doing, not only will you make a difference, Allah will take care of you. So you won't need to have these kind of financial goals in your head, because you're doing stuff for the right reason. Yeah,
for sure. Amazing. I love that. I love that. That was powerful. Intentions, it's a big thing, right? So wow, it is, you're correct. Allah will look after us, will look after our worldly affairs. We only have to do bismillah and make the intention, right? And more power to you, because I think you are affecting change, you're influencing people in a positive way. While we're on that topic, I even love what you've said about role models, because we can learn so much from, your average, maybe your next door neighbor or anybody, absolutely anybody.
exactly that. Like a close friend of mine, someone that came to work for me, she taught me a valuable lesson. She is selfless. She is so selfless in what she gives. You need a car, she'll give you her car. Now, it's not because she's got lots of money. It's because she's like, well, it's mine. You can use it. Take it. Those sorts of people really inspire me. My husband inspires me the way he's a father to our children. Like, everybody is going to inspire you in different ways, and try and aspire to better yourself in those areas that you see other people good at, but also really, like, make sure that you're really thankful for the fact that you have those people around you.
For sure. Amazing, amazing. I think, okay, so while we're talking about this, how do you feel about, I mean, we've said social media is great. There's also a negative aspect to it. Have you experienced any sort of negative aspect, and what advice would you have for people? Because I find personally, I've actually had a message just today from a sister who asked me about success, and she said, she asked me, can I have some duas because I'm not getting any success anywhere? And I found myself saying to her that, look, please don't look at other people and think that they're successful, because behind closed doors, you don't know if their world is falling apart. So social media has that negative as well. And like I said, it's hard work. The question we ask about, what motivates you to keep going, is because everybody who has a platform or who has made something or is successful at something, they know what they've done, that journey that they've had to get to that point. So what advice would you have to these?
Yeah. So in terms of social media, I mean, that's a subject in itself, isn't it? Yeah, it's a blessing because it's opened up that opportunity of communication. I've had some fantastic conversations with people I will never have actually had the opportunity to meet because they don't live anywhere near me. You do need to be really strong-minded to be on social media, I personally think, especially if you're showcasing what you're doing. I try to keep a fine line between the personal life and what I make public, and I do show glimpses of my private life, which I think will benefit other people, but not stuff about what I'm actually up to and what I'm doing. And other messages that I've had on social media are horrendous. Like, I've been told all sorts of stuff, and I feel like on social media you get attacked from two sides. You'll get attacked from non-Muslims who disagree with the religion, and then you get attacked from Muslims who think you aren't representing the religion in the right way. So you've really got to be quite strong-minded when you're stepping onto a platform like that. And for me personally, if I didn't use it for business, I would not use it at all. I wouldn't have an account on social media, only because really I don't know, I feel like there's no benefit in uploading just for the sake of uploading. I feel like it takes over your life, and it can really change how you see yourself, because you'll start to be, you know, if you start to base your decisions on likes, okay, which happens, and I'm saying that
Likes and follows.
yeah, it's not even about, and we're not even talking about I want to get thousands of followers or 1 million followers. We're talking about people that maybe have 300 followers, but they uploaded one photo and the next day they uploaded another one, and that one got double the amount of likes. It does have an impact on their choices, and quite often they can become the person that other people like to see rather than the person that they genuinely are, right? And I feel like you know, I use that platform because it's how I reach out to more people and try and engage those disengaged people in sport. And unfortunately, people want to know your personal life. They're much more excited about that than they are about your professional life, right? So as I said, I give little glimpses, but people really have no idea how much work goes on behind the scenes in what I have achieved or am achieving or am doing. You know, people only ever see the actual classes that are running or the social media uploads, or, you know, they'll see me flying a helicopter and think, oh, she's got loads of money, not realizing I got sponsorship to be able to do that. You know, they don't see the behind the scenes and how much work did I have to put in to get myself recognized enough to get that sponsorship. Like, the work that goes in would probably be the same amount of someone had money to pay to go flying. The amount of work I've done was probably cost more than that. The hours that I've actually physically put in to achieve the things I work towards. And even people whose job, their full-time job, are what are called influencers, even those people, you should see how much work they do to just keep their platform alive. And it's not something, yes, you can be inspired by people's accounts and what they're doing, but unless it makes you want to go out and actually do something yourself, then it's not beneficial for you. If you're just looking at somebody else's account thinking, oh wow, like I wish I had that, or I wish I could look like that or be like that, the second the thought like that is coming into your mind, it becomes very negative for you. So yeah, it's a love-hate relationship, isn't it? I love what it can achieve. I hate what it does to people. So, you know, I
It's a
don't.
very, very valid point, and I'm glad we had this conversation almost, because I know there's people tuned in and they're going to be agreeing in the comments. And I do sometimes worry the effect that social media will have on the next generations, because we've almost I know I'm a little bit older, so you know, I know that I had a life before social media. But imagine if you've grown up when social media is all the craze and you have to be on it. I remember a couple of years ago when my sister actually said to me, if you're not on Instagram, you're a nobody, right? So it's, and then if you think about it, I'm able to anyway, you know, see that it's a marketing tool, it's a business tool. You know, people have created content and they've been able to make a living out of it. And perhaps the end users, the people who are interacting with that that content, they're not realizing, if they're young and vulnerable, for example, or don't understand the way it works, that they're actually being influenced to do things. Like you said, it changes you without you realizing you're following in those things. So it's quite
And it
quite
can
an
create,
interesting one.
it can create a sense of failure to people as well. Because, so for
Yeah.
example, you look at my self-defense videos. Here's an example. One self-defense video is probably about 6 minutes long.
Hmm.
That self-defense video, from the time of the idea of that one video to it being actually live on YouTube, is 8 hours work. Okay.
Wow.
It's 8 hours from the filming of it to the editing. I mean, the filming of it alone is like an hour and a half for maybe a 6 minute piece.
Hmm.
They're getting shorter, you know, the more you do it, the quicker they'll come. But then the editing of it is hours. There's just so much that actually goes into the final upload. And you know, people will then think, oh, I'm going to start making videos, and they'll go and make a couple of videos, and it took them 10 minutes to make it, you know, because they saw the video as 6 minutes. They didn't see it as 8 hours. They only see the 6 minutes you show. The video doesn't do well, and then they'll feel like, well, they're a failure. These people can achieve it, but I can't. Like it's one of the things that I want to start documenting more, is behind the scenes. And it's something that I'm, you know, inshallah, I've got some exciting stuff kind of coming over the next month or two, inshallah. And one of the things is we've actually got a videographer that's coming onto our team, and
Wow.
I really want to document behind the scenes so that people know, listen, you can achieve this. There's nothing you can't achieve, but if you're not willing to put in the hours that's needed, then it's maybe not for you. And I'm not saying, you know, there will be something that is for you, but unless you're willing to stay up late at night, my normal bedtime is at least midnight, you know. I work in the evenings, I work in the day, but I do it. It doesn't take away from my family because I'm able to do it from home when I want to. You know, I have that balance that I want. Sometimes it's heavy on one side than the other. But you do need to make sacrifices if you want to make a change. And I feel like the change that I'm trying to make, as I said, it's not just about martial arts. It's about something so much bigger and so much deeper, and really trying to educate and change mindsets of families who will be the next generation, and so on, you know. And to have the blessing, whether it's from your parents or whoever it's from in your life, to have the blessing that not only they're happy for you to do it, but they're actually excited by it, will bring a strong generation of families. We're not just talking about the women, the entire families will be stronger. And you know, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go back into social media. Like, unfortunately, you have to be willing to kind of be on social media a bit to be able to pass on your message.
It's a
So you
bigger
know,
impact, isn't it?
it's not for everyone. It's like, but that choice is not for everyone, but there is something really important for everyone out there, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm gutted. We're almost, you know, 3/4 of the way through. So I really do want to, you know, just ask you what else is going on with yourself, and you know, all the things that you're doing. What can we be expecting? Because I know you've got some exciting stuff coming up. Can we hear a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So I mean, one thing is lockdown taught me so much. And one of the things that it taught me was sport in general is often a therapy for people. Now, that's not new to me. I already knew that. Okay. But many of those people who have sports as a therapy didn't realize it was their therapy. And so many people are like, right, I need to work out every week. If I don't, I'm going to fall into a black hole. I need to mentally do it. It will help me. Lots of people, it will just be part of their life, not realizing that it's actually kind of helping, and maybe even covering up something much deeper for them. And so when lockdown happened in March and that was suddenly taken away from people, I saw some of the strongest women that I knew crash in a matter of weeks, because what they didn't realize was their therapy was no longer there. The structure of their life had been taken away from them, and they relied on that to get through everyday life. So already last year, the plan was to really help on the kind of mental health side of mental health prevention, even really trying to kind of catch it in those early stages of understanding that, you know, sport is fantastic, but you also need to make sure that you do understand yourself and you're able to be alone with yourself, and you know, all those things that you need to help improve you have a stronger mindset, as well as the impact of COVID on our business was detrimental. We had 11 locations that were closed overnight. Literally, it was a Friday. I remember the news came out, gyms will be closed, they will not be opening from Saturday. It was the next day. And so it gave me the opportunity. Well, obviously it was, I called it an opportunity. It gave me the opportunity to think, what can we do? We went online. And so another thing that brought was realizing that I already knew that the only people that we know are the people that choose to come to our class, not the people that are sat at home thinking they'd like to but are not able to. And having those online sessions allowed us to reach out to those people that ordinarily wouldn't just step up and go to a class for the first time. So combining all of that I've learned just during the lockdown, based with what I've kind of learned from pre-lockdown, it made me want to make sure we've got a much more supportive system in place other than just the classes. So moving forward, inshallah, we're actually working to open up a hub that will be not just about martial arts. So it will be sport in general, anything fitness, mental and physical health, all in one place that is there for a community. We're doing the first one as a trial, which we're opening in Milton Keynes. So the second we get the go ahead to be able to open up, that will happen, and it will be very much focused. Safari MMA classes and everything will still continue running. Safari Health Hub will be about outreach work, about really trying to engage those disengaged communities. And as I said, not just offering the classes, the research and the kind of social presence and the message that we need to create to try and help children, youth, men, women take that first step to come to a first class, whether that is online or a physical class in the first place. And so it's about changing perceptions and creating an all over well-being experience where people are still free to be themselves and not compromise their belief or who they are. And so the premises will be really kind of catered for that. There'll be an area where women want to pray, they can, anything like that. So at the same time,
it sounds amazing.
Yeah, thank you. At the same time, to do that, we've increased our workforce. So we've literally just taken on with 7 new members of staff into Team Safari, 6 of which have come through the Kickstart program, which is a government incentive to try and prevent unemployment. So we'll be helping those young people that will be finding it hard to get work right now. We'll be bringing those in to kind of get that experience and hopefully stay with us to grow something that inshallah will be there as a support place for everyone. So yeah,
mashallah. Honestly, it's
announced it, by the way. You are getting
exclusive. That's amazing. You heard it right here, guys. Exclusive, right for you, right here. Modesty Table, World Hijab Day. Khadijah Safari taking over the world, right? I think this was, before we head off into anything else, it's got to be, this amazing sort of setup that you've got. I know people are going to be tuning in thinking, I wish we had access to this. I remember the first time coming across you and thinking, gosh, is there anything local to me? And then when you said yes, there is, and then I think it was just then lockdown happened and it was unfortunate. So inshallah, whatever you've lost during this time, that you've managed to create and build and set up for the future. And I love the fact that you've mentioned that being able to adapt is super important. We are of a community, of a faith where we're encouraged to get up and get up stronger, so inshallah, lots of du'as for the success of this. And I see it going huge, inshallah. Ladies and gents, anybody who's tuned in and wants to get in touch, Khadijah, let them know how they can connect to you on social media, perhaps.
Yeah, I will. So if you want to get in touch directly with me, it's just Khadijah Safari, Khadijah with a H at the end. Or you can search our actual company, Safari MMA, that should come up. But can I just say just 2 things, actually, just quickly following on from that. If you are based in the UK and you do have a community that is interested in classes near you, get in touch with us. Where there's a demand, we will try and set them up. The demand has to be there. If the demand is there, we will try and set up classes locally to you. And secondly, can I just say, people will say, oh, you're such an inspiration, all of this stuff. I don't know anyone that is not an inspiration to someone. And quite often, whoever's listening right now, you are probably an inspiration to more people than you realize. And quite often they won't tell you you're their inspiration and you won't realize you are. And it could be your role as a sister. It could, whatever that role is, it could be your time that you give to a community. It could be the way you are with your children. There will be many people that you're inspiring. And so, yeah, just don't always look up. Just remember there's many people underneath you always looking up to you as well.
SubhanAllah, amazing. What a lovely message to leave on. And guys, of course, World Hijab Day, this is going to be going live on World Hijab Day YouTube, Facebooks, Instagram, Twitter. You can connect with us in so many different ways. Inshallah, please do go check that out and don't forget to subscribe. If you've enjoyed this particular episode, we'd love to hear your positive feedback. As always, if you've got any suggestions or any questions, please do drop them and we'll pass them on to the amazing sister Khadijah as well. But I think this time, I'm heading off to Lebanon for a week, so I will be back. Do keep me in your du'as as well. We're going to Lebanon for charity work, actually. Alhamdulillah, Khadija, you know me. I'm always, before lockdown, I was here, there, everywhere around the world. It's one of my favorite things to do, charity
I love
work.
that.
So
Love
I've
that.
I've got that coming up. So, as always, we love to connect with all of you around the world. Please keep us all in your du'as. And I absolutely love this sisterhood. And I look forward to the very next episode where we've got another amazing sister who's going to tell us all about her journey and what she's up to. But until next week, and Assalamu alaikum from me. My name is Shreen Mahmood. I've been your host. And from the lovely sister Khadija, any last leaving words?
No, like may Allah make everything easy for you, and just remember everything generally does happen for a reason. So, have faith in that and all will be good, inshallah.
Love that. All will be good. All is well. Take care, guys. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.